You are now listening to the Outsiders Sports Show, right here on The Hog, the most comprehensive and hard-hitting sports hour on radio today. And now, coming at you with their unabashed sports magnetism, here are your hosts, Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger.
And welcome everyone to the Outsiders Sports Show. Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger joining you here on The Hog. So happy to be here. Big weekend for college football, big weekend for the NFL. Noah, we've got it all right here for you.
That's right, we do. Tennessee Volunteers travel up to Columbia, Missouri to take on the number 9 ranked Mizzou Tigers. Then on Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs travel to Buffalo, where we haven't won since 1986. Let's try and get off the schneid.
Absolutely. The Chiefs will try to get to 9-0 for the first time since 2003 as they head to Buffalo tomorrow to take on the Bills. The voice of the Buffalo Bills, John Murphy, will be joining us later on in the show to talk about this matchup. And of course, you mentioned Missouri-Tennessee, which will take place at 6 o'clock on ESPN tonight in Columbia. And we will be breaking that game down with VolQuest.com's Paul Fortenberry, who covers all things Tennessee on a daily basis. And coming up in our final segment, Noah, a guest that is not football related, we will be venturing into the world of boxing.
Yes, that we will. Chuck Wepner is going to be on the show. He's coming on our last segment, The Real Rocky.
Yes, you saw the ESPN 30 for 30, The Real Rocky. Chuck Wepner, the subject of that film. Sylvester Stallone getting his inspiration for the Rocky films based on the life of Chuck Wepner, who nearly defeated Muhammad Ali in 1975, that Sylvester Stallone was at and was able to help formulate his script for the first Rocky movie around Chuck Wepner. So we're going to be talking with Chuck about fighting Muhammad Ali, about fighting Andre the Giant, about his legal battle with Sylvester Stallone. Definitely going to be bringing that up. Can't wait to have Chuck on a little later in the show.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great catching up with Chuck, asking him if him and Stallone have made up any bit. Or
hopefully.
And what it was like facing the man, the animal, Andre the Giant.
Yeah, it's going to be great stuff. So we start our show with college football and the Missouri Tigers, our local team that had been ranked in the top 5. Missouri coming off a heartbreaking and gut-wrenching overtime loss to the South Carolina Gamecocks last Saturday. They're going to try to right that ship as they host the Tennessee Volunteers. A true freshman quarterback going to be going at it for the Tennessee Volunteers and Joshua Dobbs. Tennessee has been a team that looks to be improved. Coach Butch Jones has them on the right path. But I don't see them able to come in and knock off this Missouri team. If Missouri's able to stay focused after that loss, I think Missouri, who's still in first place in the SEC East, still has so much to play for. I think Missouri's going to be able to take care of this Volunteer team, but I don't think it'll be easy.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of unknowns with Joshua Dobbs. They're definitely going to try and pound the running game, maybe move the pocket, get him to cut off half the field so he doesn't have to read everything, can just read half the field. That makes it a lot easier on a quarterback. Yeah,
Rajon Neal's a very good running back for Tennessee, maybe the second best back in the SEC behind Mike Davis from South Carolina. But Tennessee's coming in here with this true freshman quarterback. What can you really expect from a true freshman? Of course, Missouri's going to still be rolling with Matty Mock. As James Franklin has been proclaimed maybe an emergency quarterback, a guy that may be available, that the injury may have healed a little bit faster. He took all the treatments. But I don't think we see James Franklin in this game.
I doubt it. We never saw Marcus Allen come in when he was an emergency quarterback back in the 90s, so I doubt Franklin will be used as well.
Oh, good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a big game for Missouri. Missouri's got to keep this pace because they are still a game ahead of South Carolina in the SEC East. But through all these odd scenarios, Missouri's basically going to have to win out. Maybe can afford one loss to either Ole Miss or Texas A&M and still win the East, but they need to win out to think about winning this thing because South Carolina only has 2 conference games left, very winnable. And Missouri did blow a golden opportunity, I think, losing that game in double overtime. And no, fans are just heartbroken over that loss. It was unbelievable. Missouri had a 17-0 lead going into the fourth quarter. Connor Shaw comes in off the bench for South Carolina, moves the ball, moves the team, gets the game tied, and in overtime, they are able to beat Missouri. Missouri misses a field goal to try to tie that game in overtime, too. Just a heartbreaking loss for the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah, it definitely is. You have 4th and goal from the 15, and they get it in. I mean, everyone thought the game was over. It didn't. All you had to do was really play prevent defense. Right. You got 2 guys on each guy. I mean, there's no reason that that wide receiver should have got behind the corner and made that play.
So we'll see if Missouri can rebound from that. Still ranked 9th in the BCS are the Missouri Tigers hosting the Tennessee Volunteers tonight. But in the rest of the college football world, there is one team that comes to mind when you ask me who is the most impressive team right now on paper. Of course, we've seen Alabama run roughshod through a season yet again. We've seen Oregon do what Oregon has done for the last 7 or 8 years. But Noah, the Florida State Seminoles look to me like the most possible team to maybe upset Alabama and maybe win the BCS championship. They are just on a tear.
Yes, and this Jameis Winston has come out of nowhere. I mean, yes, he was highly recruited. Yes, everyone thought he would be a good quarterback, but just how good, we didn't know. And, man, he has blown the doors off of some teams.
Really has. And they, of course, a couple weeks ago got the big win over Clemson on the road, a battle of two top 10 teams, and Florida State just dismantled them. They destroyed North Carolina State this last week. They're on a collision course, and now they get the Miami Hurricanes, a team who's also undefeated, but not nearly as impressive as they have squeaked by the skin of their teeth the last 2 weeks. No one really thinks a lot of Miami, I don't think, at this point, other than the fact that they've beat who they beat, and that's fine. They're going to be a nice bowl team. Does Florida State have any trouble going into this game and getting a win?
I don't think so. I mean, there's going to be a lot of hype, big brother, little brother with Miami and Florida State. But I think Jameis Winston is just too good. He's going to take advantage of his opportunities, and Miami will definitely lose this game by more than 2 touchdowns.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Big 12, because we saw Baylor, who has just taken a firm hold of this conference, and Texas, who all of a sudden look up and they're undefeated in this league. Is it going to come down to Baylor and Texas? Because we saw Oklahoma has already lost a game to Texas. Oklahoma State's already lost to West Virginia. A lot of the teams that they thought would be maybe more upper echelon are not performing that well right now. The conference is down. What about this Baylor team? My goodness, 59-14 over Kansas. Maybe that was even a little lower than people thought it might have been.
Yeah, Baylor seemed like they took it easy on them. They could have rolled up 80, 90 points on KU there. But, yeah, definitely Baylor, I look, is the favorite in the Big 12. You've got Texas there. They are undefeated in the Big 12, but I still don't think they can match up with Baylor.
Baylor, and they're doing it, Noah, on the ground. Blake Seastrong, the running back, is playing extremely well. They're 60%, 40% run to pass right now. A lot of people think, oh yeah, you see 70 points up on a board. Well, they just threw the ball all around, and not Baylor. They're doing it on the ground. That's impressive.
That is. I mean, to score that kind of points, you think you'd run the clock down, manage the game, but no, they are breaking the runs deep and long, and that's how all these points are being scored.
Well, no, as we go back to the SEC, another big game. Well, typically it's a big game. Right now it's a battle of unranked teams. Florida and Georgia, the world's biggest outdoor cocktail party taking place in Jacksonville. Such a big yearly event. It just doesn't feel that big this year. Georgia hoping to get some players back and try to get back on track, but Florida has been just a disaster. Both teams are 4-3. Both are out of the polls. Excited yet?
Yes, I am thoroughly excited with all the injuries and how it's just going to be kind of a blasé game. I mean, I don't think that you're going to see a tough battle out there. I just think it's going to be Georgia over Florida.
Yeah, I think it is. I think Georgia has a chance to get to 6-2 and to get into some sort of tiebreaker situation here in the SEC East. But Florida, I think, is downtrending big time. And I'll tell you what, Will Muschamp, who had them in a BCS Bowl last year, is downtrending as well. They lost. They were obliterated by Louisville in the Sugar Bowl last year, which has started a downtrend for that program. The question is Will Muschamp on the hot seat, or is he going to get another year to try to sort through this problem, this mess?
Well, it depends on how far they fall. If they lose to Georgia and keep losing, then yes, he could easily be out of the picture. But I think they might give him another year. Driscoll got injured, so Murphy's come in. He's looked okay at times, but I think Muschamp gets another year. I think he'll lose to Georgia, but I think he'll get some wins down the road.
Another impressive team I do want to bring up from the SEC West side is Auburn. A team with one loss. They've lost to LSU, but they have the big win over Johnny Manziel and the Texas A&M Aggies. Don't overlook Auburn because they are playing much better than I would have ever anticipated right now.
Oh, definitely. I thought after last year, I thought they were just going to be another complete mess. I didn't think that they could come back and have this kind of season, and that's exactly what they've done, and they've been really impressive.
I mean, this is a team that they're going to get Alabama in the last game of the year, and there's going to be a lot to play for. That could be for the SEC West Championship at this point, because LSU already now has come back, and they've lost a couple times. They've lost to Georgia and Ole Miss. So the SEC West, like the East, maybe not as clear-cut as a lot of people think. Of course, Alabama's pretty firmly entrenched there. But, man, this is college football. You trip up once, and all of a sudden you see Auburn in the SEC championship game. I mean, it could get crazy.
Yeah, and that'd be huge for Mizzou if they could take on an Auburn team versus an Alabama team if Mizzou does happen to get into the SEC championship game, win the SEC West.
Well, I'll tell you what, and we're going to be talking about this Missouri-Tennessee game right after the break here, as I will be heading down to Columbia for the game immediately following this broadcast. Very much looking forward to that. We are going to be talking Mizzou Tennessee with VolQuest.com's Paul Fortenberry when we come back right here on The Hog. And welcome back to the Outsider Sports Show here on The Hog, KKES-FM, being joined right now by VolQuest.com's Paul Fortenberry. Paul, it seems like we were just talking to you. It's already been a year now since Missouri came down to Rocky Top and got a win down there last season. And this season, Tennessee returns the favor. How are things going down on your end, my man?
Well, there's a lot of intrigue about this game. Obviously, Tennessee traveling out to face its fourth straight top 12 opponent, so that adds some intrigue. And then on top of that, the Vols will be starting a true freshman quarterback that's only played a half of football. So not a lot of talking points, not at all really down here.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and let you go. Have a good weekend. But no, hey, I'll tell you what, Paul, of course, more intrigue, of course, based on the fact that Missouri was defeated by South Carolina last week. Does that change your opinion on what this Missouri team is and what they can be here in the SEC East?
It has a little bit, just because of, when you see what Missouri did against Georgia was a shell of itself, a month before they played Missouri, and then Florida as well kind of been on a downward slide, and then they, they have that 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you expect a top 10 team at home to keep that lead, and, the banged-up quarterback comes in and wins one for South Carolina. It changes a little bit, but I still have a lot of respect for this Missouri football team. I really like, obviously, Michael Sam and that defensive line, but I think maybe just that's getting overshadowed, maybe because James Franklin hasn't been in the last couple of games, is their receiving core and those three running backs. I really respect their skill positions, and I think Tennessee's going to have a tough time keeping those guys corralled on Saturday.
I'm sure Tennessee wants to go with a heavy dose of Rajon Neal, but if they get behind, how comfortable are they in Joshua Dobbs?
I think they're as comfortable as you can be in a true freshman quarterback that's thrown 12 passes in his career. I think they have a lot of respect for Joshua Dobbs. The guy is an extremely, extremely smart kid. I mean, he's an aeronautical engineering major as a freshman, and the guy had a 4.0 GPA in high school. Very cerebral player. Tennessee's coaches were very impressed against Alabama, how he managed that game. He came off the field when he talked to offensive coordinator Mike Bajakian on the phone. He broke down every play, what he saw, and Mike was really impressed about that. None of the teammates saw any anxiety or anything in his eyes to make them think he was worried at that point. So I think they're really impressed with his intangibles, but it's still the point that this guy, man, he's only thrown 12 passes. He played a half of football, given that was against Alabama. But there's still a lot of mystery, honestly, that you wonder, what can this kid do? And it's hard to count on a true freshman quarterback, regardless of how good they were in high school, to count on bringing you back in a game like that. So yeah, I think in my mind, the Vols' number one priority on offense is to give the ball to Rajon Neal and Marlon Lane and try and lean on them on Saturday night.
What's Joshua Dobbs' game? Does he have a strong arm? Is he mobile? Is he a dual threat? What do you see in him?
He doesn't have a great arm, but he has a good arm. He spins it really well, and he's really good at the read option. I don't think he's a guy that's going to run it 15 times a game or anything like that, but he's a guy that may carry it 8 or 9 times. He'll keep the play alive outside of the pocket, and he'll just make the right throw. I mean, you look at his stats against Alabama, 5 of 12 for 70 yards, but I don't think it tells the whole story. He had 2, if not 3, passes dropped by Tennessee receivers that would have kept drives alive, and 2 out of the 3 were drop balls for 30-yard pass plays. I think he's got a good enough arm, but I think the thing that kind of separated him, or the Tennessee coaches really like, is his ability to make the right decision and make the right read, and I think that's going to be his calling card.
Well, right now here at Missouri, still not quite sure about the availability of James Franklin, a quarterback that's had a lot of success early this season before getting hurt against Georgia. Coaches may be saying he will be available or emergency quarterback for this game. What is Tennessee going to do preparation-wise? Obviously, Matty Mock has started the last couple games, but if James Franklin's available in this game, they've got to prepare for both quarterbacks, don't they?
Yeah, I think you do have to prepare for both quarterbacks, but it's one of those, you wonder if Gary Pinkel's doing a little bit of gamesmanship here. How fast could he really come back from that injury? I think, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about this kid, being out for another 3 or 4 weeks, and now he's all of a sudden ready to play. So I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship, and maybe he is ready to be an emergency quarterback. But if I'm Tennessee, I really, really hope that Matty Mock's the quarterback that you see on Saturday. You know, I've got to see the South Carolina game and obviously some of the game before that. And, you know, he's been okay. I thought he was bailed out some by his receivers in that South Carolina game that made his stats look a little bit better than he is. But I think he's been a little bit inconsistent. If you're Tennessee, who's been able to force some turnovers and get a little pressure on quarterbacks, I think you obviously hope that you're not facing the senior Franklin, who's, as you guys said, looked really, really good before he went down with an injury.
Well, I want to talk to you about Coach Butch Jones there. Here, of course, previously, you know, Coach Dooley, what he lacked was a signature win there at Tennessee. They did not win a lot of games that they weren't supposed to win. Now, already in one season, Tennessee has knocked off South Carolina, almost beat Georgia. Just give us a gauge as what, you know, kind of what the fan base and what people around that program, you know, are thinking about Coach Jones here in his first year at Tennessee.
Well, they absolutely love Butch Jones. He's come in and energized the fan base, and he's recruited extremely well. He's, you know, consensus top 3 class, regardless of whether it's Rivals, ESPN 24/7, whoever it is. It's one of the best classes in the nation. So he's recruiting really well. Like you said, he beat a top ranked opponent. The first time they beat a ranked opponent since 2009, since Lane Kiffin was here. And while that's a step, you know, it's just a part of this process. The big step for Tennessee is making a bowl game, getting back to a bowl for the first time since 2010, and he's got to win 2 more games to do that. But right now, everyone really likes Coach Jones. He likes what they have for the future. I mean, this team realistically is overachieved. They've got, you know, a veteran offensive line that has some talent, but besides that, the defensive line has veterans, but they're not extremely talented. They have some talented young skill players like Marquez North. But he's been able to manage the situation very well, and like you said, get that important. I mean, that was the first SEC win in October since 2009. I mean, Tennessee since 2010 have been dreadful in the SEC if your name wasn't Kentucky, Vanderbilt, or Ole Miss. And then so that basically means you've beaten, you know, nobody that really matters. So I think they've taken the right steps, and we'll see I think these last 4 games will tell us a lot more about Butch. And I think he's done a great job up to now, but he's got to make a bowl game, I think.
Paul, I want to talk to you about this division here and the SEC East and kind of how you see this playing out, because Missouri had a golden opportunity to put this thing on lockdown last week against South Carolina, blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter, could not get that done. Missouri still holds a 1-game lead, but with the schedules and how do you see this thing playing out over the next month or so?
You know, it's interesting. You know, they do have that one. Missouri has that 1-game lead over South Carolina, but the fact that Missouri has 4 more league games and South Carolina only has 2, I think that's going to be a tough road for Missouri, and they're going to have the bullseye on their back. Everyone's going to be wanting to take them down. They have that huge test against Texas A&M at the end of the year, whereas South Carolina still has Florida, but a Florida team that, man, they're on a downward spiral right now. Where will they be when they play the Gators, or when they play South Carolina here in a couple weeks in the middle of November? So I still think it's kind of Missouri's to lose, but I think it's going to be a tough November with their schedule compared to what South Carolina has to do the rest of the way.
Well, being here in Kansas City, we've got to ask you about our favorite Chiefs quarterback, Tyler Bray, last year Tennessee Volunteer. What do you see in him? Do you think he's matured? Do you think he can be a franchise quarterback in this league?
Well, first off, I'm actually a big Chiefs fan as well, big Chiefs and Royals guy, so I am smitten with Alex Smith because he's actually, putting points on the board compared to where they were last year. And Tyler, everyone knows that the kid he's got the strongest arm on the Chiefs. He's got one of the strongest arms in the NFL. He can make all the throws. It's all a question of maturity and how much does he want it. At Tennessee, he was a lot about, he kind of went through the motions here, and that's what led him not to get drafted. A lot of people wondered, in the NFL, if he kind of had the grit and grittiness to go out and be an NFL franchise quarterback, and there's no doubt that he has the talent and the tools. He has great pocket awareness. He's got an amazing arm, and I think it's good he's learning behind a guy like Alex Smith that, man, look at what he's done the last 2 full seasons he started, and even before Kaepernick went down, all the guy does is win. For him to be around the winner, I think, is a big deal, and I think that's going to help out in the long run. And I think, it's a process for Tyler. He's one of those guys that, man, we'll see what he looks like 2 or 3 years down the road. Has he matured? Has he really made the investment to be an NFL franchise quarterback? And you kind of go from there. But I'm a big fan of Alex Smith. I love the trade from the moment they talked about getting it done, and they've been able to get it done. And maybe he's not the flashiest quarterback, but when you go back to his last 20 starts, he's only lost a couple ball games. Man, that's as impressive as anybody.
Well, we all know Alex Smith doesn't have the strongest arm. Tyler Bray does. You feel like you can't win a game with Alex Smith. The defense kind of carries him. But as far as Tyler Bray, he could win you a game down the road. I mean, how lucky is he to be with Andy Reid, a quarterback guru, helping teach him how to play the position?
Oh, he can win you a game, but you better believe he can lose the game. I've seen him several times. I mean, on the road at Georgia, 3 straight possessions to tie or win the ball game, and there's 3 straight turnovers in the fourth quarter. You go to South Carolina, it's obviously not his fault that Clowney comes off the backside and gets the sack and fumble, but you hope you have a little bit more awareness in that situation to maybe get the ball out early. So, he never had a significant SEC win. Like I said, his only 3 SEC wins were Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky, while at Tennessee. And some of that obviously is who was around him, but in his senior year, you're talking about a first-round NFL pick and Cordell Patterson. You're talking about Justin Hunter, second-round pick, and Michael Rivera, who's doing a tremendous job for the Raiders right now. He had all those tools and wasn't able to go out and get you a win. So I'm all about winning, whether it's flashy or not, whether he lets the defense carry him or not. Alex Smith is getting it done. He's finding, Donnie Avery's become a guy. McCluster's having the best season he's had as a Chief. So winning's the bottom line, and he's getting it done right now.
Well, Paul, we got to ask you, are you and the VolQuest team, are you guys going to be making the trek to Columbia? And if so, would this be your guys' first time in our neck of the woods, man?
It will be, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to a high school game in Nashville Friday night, and then early Saturday morning we'll be flying out to St. Louis and then making the drive over to Columbia, I guess around noon on Saturday, and looking forward to it. It's always fun to go to new places in the SEC and kind of see what the feel and the vibe is. And a lot of people we've talked to really like Columbia. It's maybe, a Athens, Georgia of the Midwest, if you guys have been able to make it down there yet. It's, it's not a big city, but it's got a cool college town feel to it. So I'm definitely excited to get there on Saturday and see Columbia, Missouri, and see what the Tigers are all about.
Well, Paul, we definitely look forward to that. Hope we can catch up with you here this weekend for the game. Definitely appreciate you coming on today, talking about this game, big game coming up for both teams. Can't thank you enough. We'll definitely catch up, if nothing else, about this time next year, if that sounds good for you. We appreciate you joining us, Paul, and good luck to the Vols as always, man.
All right, guys. Take it easy. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Paul, for joining us. We got to go to break, but when we come back, we'll be talking to the voice of the Buffalo Bills, John Murphy, and previewing Chiefs and Bills tomorrow in Buffalo. And welcome back to the Outsider Sports Show here on the Hog, KKES-FM, joined currently by the voice of the Buffalo Bills, John Murphy. John, welcome to the show. How's everything going out in Buffalo, my man?
Everything's great. Looking forward to the game.
Absolutely. Well, of course, you Bills should, as the Chiefs have not won out there since 1986. That kind of a weird stat. But really, traditionally, the Bills have played the Chiefs well at Arrowhead or out there in Orchard Park. What's up with that?
Well, it's a long series, long history between these two teams, and it occurs to me it's been a little while since Kansas City has played here. We've spent a lot of time playing out there at Arrowhead the last couple of years, but these teams go way back. I actually was in the stands at the old War Memorial Stadium on New Year's Day, 1967, when the Chiefs beat the Bills 31-7 for the right to go to the first Super Bowl. And of course, the series started back in 1960, so it's a pretty good rivalry. It has not been a great rivalry in recent years, but I think it's gone back and forth. It's got to be a pretty even rivalry between these two.
What's the plan for the Buffalo Bills, you think, without their Kansas City Chief killer Ryan Fitzpatrick there?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're down to, third string at quarterback with Thad Lewis these days. They started the rookie E.J. Manuel the first 5 games. He got hurt on the Thursday night at Cleveland, so Thad Lewis is getting the action at quarterback. This will be his fourth start for the Bills, his 5th start in the NFL. He's had some ups and downs, a couple of difficult games, including last Sunday at New Orleans, but mostly for the Bills, what they want to do offensively is run the ball, and they're pretty strong running attack for the most part.
the plan's going to be attacking this Chiefs team? Of course, the Cleveland Browns this past Sunday were able to neutralize the Chiefs pass rush a little bit. What's going to be the plan for the Buffalo Bills? They obviously have weapons, Jackson and Stevie Johnson, guys that that can make a difference in this game. How do you think that Buffalo is going to attack this dangerous Chiefs team?
I think the Bills have demonstrated that they want to run the football. They do it pretty well. They are one of the teams that has run the ball more than anybody else in the league so far this year. And the health of C.J. Spiller has been a question, but even without him, they like to run the ball with Fred Jackson and Tashard Choice, and I think that's the way they'll go. I think they also have a healthy respect for Kansas City and want to make sure that they keep chains moving and maybe burn a little bit more clock than they have in the past. So I would think the Bills will probably attack them on the ground. That's what they do. That's what they do this year.
On the defensive side for the Buffalo Bills, you have Marcel Darius and Kyle Williams with 4 sacks, Mario Williams with 11 sacks. The Chiefs' offensive line has been struggling as of late. Do you think that's going to be a big key to this game? And also, are the Buffalo Bills going to try and cover the underneath stuff and let Alex Smith throw deep if he can?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a plan. I think they are a pretty good pass rush team. The Bills are pretty good at creating turnovers, a lot of interceptions this year, pretty good at sacks. I think they're 8th in the league in sacks per pass play. And so defensively, I think that's their strength up front. They kind of are a high-risk, high-reward defense. They'll take chances. They'll send a lot of blitzers, and they'll attempt to confuse the opposing quarterbacks. Whether or not they concede the short passes or lock them down, I'm not sure. But I do think that the Bills, part of their game plan is to always get a good pass rush going. They do it with a variety of blitzes, and when they're good at it, when they can do it, they like to do it with a 4-man rush.
All right, the Bills are sitting here at 3-5 right now. The AFC's been kind of a topsy-turvy conference so far. And Doug Marrone here in his first season, I think has done some nice things. What are the early returns, from Bills fans and around that team as far as Doug Marrone and what he's brought to the Bills so far this season?
Well, I think the fans kind of respond to his style, which is sort of a no-nonsense style of coaching. I think the players are responding. They seem to like his no baloney approach. He's very buttoned down, very, very organized. I'm impressed with how organized he is in his first year as a head coach. But the results are not quite there yet. I think most fans are being patient even after 13 years without a playoff spot. I think the fans are really patient here, thinking, well, this is the start again of a new regime, and let's see how it goes. They've been competitive. The Bills have been in virtually every game this year. So that kind of makes some of those 5 losses go down a little bit easier. But, it's sort of a honeymoon period, I think, for Coach Marrone, and he's done enough. I think he's shown enough that the fans are responding, and I think the fans think his players respond to him as well.
How much of a surprise has rookie inside linebacker Kiko Alonso been for you guys? It looks like he could be up for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he's been really solid. He runs all over the field. He takes virtually every snap defensively. I don't know if he's a surprise. I mean, the Bills, when they traded down in the first round back in April, moved down 8 spots and took their quarterback, E.J. Manuel. They were really interested in getting an extra second-round pick, and that's what they got, and that's what they used on Kiko Alonso. They had him targeted for the middle of this defense as a playmaker, a guy who will play all 3 downs, who can cover passes, who can rush the passer, and will deliver a big hit from time to time. So I think they're very happy with what they've seen from Kiko Alonso. He's been very good and fortunate in pass coverage, coming up with interceptions and game-changing plays. He's not perfect, but I do think they've got a good one, and they're looking forward to future development from him.
John, I want to ask you about this Kansas City Chiefs team, a team that sits here at 8-0. But from people on the East Coast, does this team really pass the eye test? I mean, Alex Smith has seemingly struggled this year. The offense can't really get going. The offensive line is struggling, yet the Chiefs are winning all these games, winning it with defense, winning it with pressuring the quarterback and turnovers. Does this team pass the eye test for you, and how do you feel about the Chiefs going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you can't ignore 8-0. You can't ignore that no matter who they played. I know people will poke holes in the quality of their opposition, but 8-0 is 8-0 no matter who you're playing, and they've answered the bell all 8 games so far this season, so that certainly passes the eye test. I've never had a big problem with Alex Smith. I think with a great quarterback coach like Andy Reid, a guy like Alex Smith, I figured he would thrive, and he has certainly been able to thrive in that offense. So they're good. I mean, you go 8-0. There's no, you win every game you played so far. I'm not going to be the one to poke any holes in that. Good for them, and we'll see if they can keep it going, regardless of who they played or who they've beaten so far.
John, I'll tell you what, I've always been a huge fan of the Bills uniform since they switched back to kind of this hybrid old school style mixed with the newish bill on the helmet. I want to ask someone that's around the team about this, because You look at all these throwbacks, all these uniforms, all these new uniforms, Nike and all this. Buffalo, to me, has the best in the league. What are your thoughts about the Bills since they switched back to these, and do you think that this will be a style they keep going forward?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think they finally got it right. They were kind of, I didn't like the previous incarnation of the uniforms, but I think they've got kind of a nice mix of colors and striping that reminds the fans here of the glory days of the franchise, even going back to the mid-'60s, and kind of a fresh look. So I like what they've done. I hope they stay with it. I'm not one of those guys who's looking always for, updated uniforms. I know a lot of people do just for the opportunity to, sell uniforms and sell merchandise, but I think they've got it right. I think it's a good look for them, and I think the fans like it a lot.
Well, John, I'll tell you what, very much looking forward to heading out to Buffalo for this game on Sunday. Best of luck to the Buffalo Bills, and have a great call, and thanks so much for joining us here on the Outsider Sports Show. We really appreciate it. John Murphy, everyone, the voice of the Buffalo Bills. Thanks a lot, and have a good rest of the weekend.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, guys, see you later.
And a big thanks to John for joining us talking Chiefs-Bills. And I'll tell you what, Noah, this game scares me. The Chiefs, like we mentioned a couple times throughout the show, have not won in Buffalo since 1986. Really, it doesn't seem to matter where these two teams play. The Buffalo Bills just seem to have the Chiefs' number.
That they do. I still like the Chiefs in this game. I think they can win it with Thad Lewis in there for the Buffalo Bills. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs will get the job done up there in Buffalo.
What did you see in this last game against Cleveland? Because I saw a really good and really balanced offensive game plan in the first half last week against the Cleveland Browns. We saw Alex Smith with 2 first-half touchdowns, and then the offense had 51 yards in the second half. I know the defense had trouble stopping Jason Campbell to Josh Gordon, but again, the defense had to win this game. I mean, they did.
Yes, they did. I mean, Sean Smith has had some troubles on the past few weeks with Josh Gordon against the Cleveland Browns. And this Kansas City Chiefs team, I mean, Alex Smith, he looked okay in the first half, but this second half, the Cleveland Browns made their adjustments, and Kansas City came out and just couldn't make the same adjustments and figure out this Browns defense.
And I think for the Chiefs, it's a combination of things, because when you're 8-0 and you have the best record in the NFL, it's hard to go back and just start nitpicking. But when you look at this Chiefs offense, another rough day of it for the offense, and it's a combination of things to me. This offensive line is not pass blocking well. Jamal Charles is getting so many touches that it's really hard to count on him at the end of games to put games away when you need chunks of yards, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. He's gassed, and what do? You don't have another option there. This receiving core is average at best, and the quarterback is the definition of mediocre. So should we really even be expecting any more from this offense at this point?
No, we shouldn't. People say that they're going to get more comfortable. They'll get better as the season goes on. I don't see it. We just don't have the pieces. We don't have the quarterback. Jamal Charles is being run into the ground. We don't have the weapons on the outside. We don't have the offensive line, so I don't see how it's going to get any better.
But there's this misconception, I think, through the media that the way that the Denver Broncos are doing this is the right way. That because it's flashy football, and wow, look, here's this touchdown to Wes Welker, and this looks great on film. Is that true? Do you agree with that? Do you agree that, wow, the Denver Broncos are doing it the right way? The Chiefs, yeah, they have a great defense, but they're winning the wrong way. Is that how you feel?
Yes, because the Denver Broncos are doing it the right way because they have a stud, franchise, future Hall of Fame quarterback in Peyton Manning. Anytime you give me one of those, I'm doing it the right way.
And I think that as good as this Chiefs defense is, we're starting to see holes. I think the Chiefs defense has to be the 2000 Ravens or the 1985 Bears to have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Right now, they're not. Right now, they're top 5 in the NFL, but we're starting to see holes. We saw Case Keenum, and we saw Jason Campbell throw the ball with success against this secondary. The pass rush hasn't really been there against the Cleveland Browns, and I think that the Buffalo Bills offensive line is going to have to do a good job, and I think they will do a good job of trying to keep those outside pass rushers from getting in on every play. But are we starting to see holes in the defense?
I think we are a little bit. You see a little bit of limitation in Sean Smith with some of the faster wide receivers out there with a DeAndre Hopkins against the Houston Texans, Josh Gordon against the Cleveland Browns. We've got to have Flowers come back 100% healthy. He's been having some nagging injuries. Kendrick Lewis doesn't really help anything out there. He's kind of average. Akeem Jordan's average. Tyson Jackson, DeVito don't really bring a lot to the table, but as long as you have Dontari Poe, Houston, and Hawley on the outside and Derek Johnson manning the middle, you're going to be a strong defense, just not top 5 all-time like you mentioned in the 2000 Ravens and 1985 Chicago Bears.
So before we go to break, prediction time real quickly. Chiefs win this game. I got it 23-20. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think the Bills do enough to slow this Chiefs offense down. But, I don't know, Marcus Cooper makes a play. Eric Berry makes a play. Somebody will make a play, and the Chiefs will win.
Yeah, I've got it 21-20. I got a real close game going down to the wire. I can see Chiefs come away with the win.
All right, guys, we got to go to break, but coming up after the break, we got Chuck Wepner, the real Rocky. Do not want to miss this. Thanks a lot. All right, guys, joining us right now, the Bayonne Brawler. He is the subject of the ESPN 30 for 30 movie entitled The Real Rocky. Many memorable fights in his career against George Foreman, Sonny Liston, of course, Muhammad Ali. We're, of course, talking about boxing legend Chuck Wepner. Chuck, how you doing today, man? Good to hear from you.
Yeah, we're doing fine. Very good. You know, we're still working, same job, 44 years, so I'm looking for allied liquors, me and my wife, and things are going great.
I was going to ask you about that because I was thinking about maybe getting a martini or something before the show started, and you could definitely help us with that. I know you guys are on the wine and spirit business now. Tell our fans about that and where they can find you.
Well, you don't have to tell your fans that you guys are out in Missouri, right?
Absolutely.
Out by the Breakers or
Kansas City.
Yeah, okay, the inner city. Okay, very good. Well, you know, you guys are a little far away. We only deal with people in the state of New Jersey, but it's a nice job. We like it. We work for a great company, and like I say, I'm there 44 years in February, this month actually, and my wife is there going on 14 years. So we like what we do, and we do a pretty good job of it.
Well, Chuck, you are an absolute boxing legend. You were the recent subject of the film, the ESPN 30 for 30 film, The Real Rocky. Before we get into any specifics, just give us, what your thoughts were on the film, and if you thought, you were depicted in the light that you wanted to be depicted in.
Well, I was thrilled, naturally. It's something that's in the works along with the movie, which will be coming out this year, too, called The Bleeder, with Liam Schreiber, Naomi Watts, Christina Hendricks, a couple other people, but the 30-30 series was done very well. It was done by a guy named Jeff Furazig, who's done a lot of stuff on me through the years, and I was very happy with it, especially with the publicity we got, because according to ESPN, it was the highest rated 30-30 show in the last 8 years. It was we got a 93, and the saying that went along with it was millions of people watched the movie, one man lived it. That was a real cool saying, and they said about 35 to 40 million people watched it that night, so naturally I was very happy with it.
Well, let's go back to 1975. Of course, in Richfield, Ohio, you fought Muhammad Ali for the heavyweight championship of the world. Go back before that. Give us a little light as far as how that fight came about and what your thoughts were when this idea got presented to you. Were you just in awe and shock, or were you excited for the opportunity?
No, not at all. I had been ranked in the top 10 in the world for 40 straight months, along with Ali, Foreman, Liston, Terrell, a WBC former heavyweight champion of the world who I beat for the title in Atlantic City in 72. I was in there with a lot of top guys, Jerry Quarry, Norton, Bonavina, and that's when the top 10 in boxing, the heavyweight division, was great. Now it's, you got a couple of Russian guys who are pretty good fighters, but that's about it in the division. But like I said, I was ranked 8th in the world at the time, and Don King, we had taken on Don King as our promoter, and he knew my manager Al Braven very well from the old days, and Don sent me out to Salt Lake City, Utah to fight a guy named Terrible Terry Hinkey, a big, they called him the Stormin' Mormon. He was 34-3 with 31 knockouts, and nobody wanted to fight him. And I was the North American heavyweight champion and the NABA heavyweight champion. So I went out to Salt Lake City, Utah, the Salt Palace, and I defended my title, my NABA and North American title, and There was a 12-rounder. I knocked him out in the 11th round. I had him down 7 times. And I earned a shot at George Foreman, who was then the world champion. Anyway, 3.5 weeks later, Foreman fights Ali in Zaire, and everybody thought that Foreman was going to walk right through Muhammad Ali. And Ali shocked the world and knocked him out in the 8th round. And I thought I blew a shot at the title because I was supposed to be fighting Foreman, and now Ali was the champ. But Don King called me the day after the fight and said, I promised you a shot at the title. You're going to be fighting Muhammad Ali. Yeah, I shrugged it off and said, yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, 3 months and a day later, I was home in my apartment watching Kojak with Telly Savalas, one of my favorite shows. And the phone rang about 11 o'clock. I said, God damn it, I never answered the phone when Telly Savalas is on. He was a dear friend of mine, a great show he had. And I said, but let me answer. I just had an inkling about something. I picked up the phone, it's my mother, and she's all excited. She says, Chuck, did you see the back of the news? I said, what, Mom? She says, Ali to defend against Wepner, March 24th in Richfield, Ohio, Cleveland Coliseum. Well, needless to say, Don King kept his word. I was a little shocked, but I ran right up to the local theater where they used to sell the newses in front of the theater, and I gripped the last 3. And sure enough, the whole back page, Ali to defend against Wepner, and the rest is history. You know, I went away to camp for the first and only time in my career. That's the time I was a part-time fighter. I used to run in the morning and work during the day and train at night. And, well, you saw the movie, Rocky. And anyway, I got the title shot. I was a 40-1 underdog and a 20-1 underdog not to go 5 rounds, and I went 15 with him, had him down, and Stallone was there down to his last few bucks. He got the inspiration for the movie, and the rest is history with that, too. Rocky was born, and I was Rocky.
Yeah, as we lead into that, of course, Stallone getting that inspiration for the Rocky movie, and you knocking Muhammad Ali down in the 9th round. Of course, a lot of people went on to say he fell on your foot, but I think boxing purists like ourselves look at it and see that Muhammad Ali was obviously down and hurt. A guy that just falls down and slips on someone's foot doesn't remain down and hurt for very long. So, I mean, what was going through your head when you see the champs on the ground? I'd heard a story that you went over to your corner and said, hey, we got this. We might have this thing won.
No, I said to Al Braveman, I said, Al, stop the car. We'll go to the bank with me and his. And Al said to me, Chuck, you better turn around. He's getting up and he looks pissed off. I said, uh-oh. Anyway, he was, I hit him with a right hand under the heart. He was all balanced. And, if somebody steps on your foot, like they said 2 hours after the fight when they saw the film, you jump right up and say to the referee, hey, ref, he stepped on my foot, but he never. Ali took the 8 count, continues to fight, and we went another 6 rounds after that, and it was Drew Blondini Brown that came up with the story, and that thing was a bunch of baloney. But you know what? It just added a little more conjecture to the fight, and people were excited about it, and it was a great night for me. And here I am, 37 years later, doing an interview with you, and people are still talking about the fight.
We actually have a fan question from Bill Robinson, who grew up a big-time fan, and he wants to know about your fight with George Foreman and the punch that broke a bone in your eye and sent that bone through your eyelid.
I'll tell you, it's a funny thing. We took the fight with George. He was up and coming, and he was going to be the next heavyweight champ, which he eventually did win. George was a hell of a fighter, but when I fought him, he was a wild, swinging young guy. He was actually a better fighter when he came back 10 years later because everything was close. He was throwing punches shorter and better and everything else. Anyway, with that fight, we were just going to try to go 4 or 5 rounds with him, tire him out, and catch up to him maybe in the later rounds. I saw that hook coming from here to Chicago, and I thought I was going to slip it, and I pulled away, and it just caught me right and slipped my eye wide open, and my eye bone, it hit with such force that my eye bone swelled from the inside and broke through the outside of my lid, and it was a terrible cut. For my manager, Al Braveman, who was considered to be the best cut man in the world at that time, to say, Chuck, I got to stop the fight at the end of the 3rd round. He said, I got to stop it, Chuck. he says, I can't do anything with it. And I was pissed off because, the punch really didn't hurt me. It just, I fought for 21 years, and I could take a good punch. I was never down around except for that 15th round with Ali, and I was pissed off at the time, but when I got downstairs and I looked in the mirror at the eye and the way it swelled up like almost like a baseball. And my eyeball came right through my eye, and it took 60-something stitches, 38 inside and 32 or 33 outside, and it was a bad cut. But what are you going to do? George went on to be a great fighter then. And anyway, he got upset by Ali that night, and I wound up getting a shot at Muhammad Ali, and the greatest thing could have happened to me because I got a shot at probably the greatest heavyweight that ever lived, and I won 15 rounds.
I want to ask you a little bit about Sylvester Stallone because all of our fans have seen the movie, seen the ESPN 30 for 30, and of course seen the Rocky films. It's very obvious what happened there as far as Stallone stealing your story. I mean, at what point do you think that there could have been fences mended between you and Stallone? I mean, I know he talked about having you in the sequel, Rocky 2. That never happened. Like, at what point did you give up and say, okay, Stallone's obviously not going to give me credit for this, and there's going to have to be some action taken?
Well, he wrote a part into Rocky 2, Ching Webber. I was going to be his chief sparring partner. I have the script right here on my desk, and I've been offered a lot of money for it, and I'm not selling it yet. We'll see what happens. But, I sold almost everything else that I used in that fight, my robe, my trunks, my gloves, even my protective cup. I sold, if you can believe it. I had 30 women bidding on it. 30 women. I just said, well, let's see the highest bidder. They finally bid $160,000, and I sold it.
Wow.
But that's a joke. Are you kidding me? My wife is sitting right behind me. She's going to laugh at it tonight. My wife, Linda.
I'm the only one that's going to hold his cup.
Yeah.
That was gold.
It's over.
Yeah.
That was gold. Wow.
Oh, my wife Linda she's so great, so much fun, and she jokes as much about this stuff as I do, but it's been a great run, and I'm very happy with the way things turned out. The only thing that I'm not happy with is my dear friend Muhammad Ali being sick. He's so sick. We were out there last February. They flew me, Foreman, Norton, Spinks, all the guys who fought him, Pacquiao. They had some of the greatest fighters, Boom Boom Mancini, and we all flew out to Las Vegas to Muhammad Ali's 70th birthday party at the MGM Grand, and we had a great time. We got to see the champ, and I'm just sad that he's not feeling as great as he used to, and. But Lonnie takes very good care of him, his wife Lonnie, and the girls were all there, all his daughters, all beautiful seven. I call them, the Magnificent Seven, I call them the Beautiful Seven.
Sure.
all his daughters are beautiful, and he had a great time. We had Puff Daddy there, we had De Niro, Stallone, everybody was there. We had Kiss, you had the guys in the Rolling Stones. I mean, it was the greatest celebrity party that there ever was, and Muhammad Ali was the hero that night, just like he's always been. And as you can tell by the way I'm talking about him, I love the guy. He's been great to me, just like Stallone. People think because I took Stallone to court, like I said to Sly later on, it's just business. It was just business. You asked me at what time I decided to institute a suit against him. Well, actually, it was the movie Copland. They were filming at Weehawken, and Ali was told about it. He refused to pardon it, and they wanted to. But everybody was over to pardon the movie except me, and I'm from New Jersey. They had filming a movie in Weehawken, and even though Stallone had written in a part in Rocky 2 for me, Ching Webber, I read for the part. He brought me to Philly. I read for the part, and I just didn't do good. I'm not an actor, I understand that, but this movie Copland right here in New Jersey, and you don't offer me a part in it, any kind of a part. So my wife suggested, hey, you know what? Why don't we go after this guy? And we went after him, and it was a no-brainer. everybody knew that he wrote the movie about me, and there were so many different scenes in the movies to follow that were depicted about the same things I did in my life, running up the steps, fighting Thunderlips. You know, that was me with what you call it?
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant fought him, but getting thrown out of the ring was what's it called? The former heavyweight wrestling champion. No, Linda.
Hulk Hogan.
Getting thrown out of the ring in the movie.
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, Hulkster.
You know what? You got to interview me here at 7. I've been working since 7:15 this morning with the job, you know. So,
sure, no problem.
There's so many scenes in the movie, and so it was like it was an easy one, you know. When we settled out of court, I don't want to belabor the point over it. So long, you know, we made a settlement, and everything was amicable, and I love the guy. I think he's great in his movies. I mean, he's done a lot for me. You know, writing a movie and me becoming Rocky and everything else. And I have no ill feelings to Sylvester Stallone at all. I love him. I watched him the other night on the David Letterman show again. You know, and he's terrific.
Well, that's great to hear, and I tell you what, we were just huge fans of yours, huge fans of the film about you, huge fan of the Rocky movies as well. But I'll tell you what, Chuck, I know you don't do this kind of thing often. We just cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking about your career with us tonight, and it really means a lot to us. And let's stay in touch, maybe catch up again down the road sometime, my man.
All right, Clinton. You and Noah have a good night.
Hey.
And thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks a lot. You tell Linda thanks a lot for keeping in touch with us, and we'll give you all the best, my man. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good night, son.
Take care.
Big thanks to Chuck Wepner, and a big thanks to all of our guests who came on the show today. And thanks to everyone who listened to us here on The Hog. We hope you'll check out our Facebook page. Just search for The Outsider Sports Show on Facebook and on Twitter, Outsider Sports. All of our previous shows are archived in any number of our social media outlets. Just go look for them. You'll find us, guys. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. Go find your spot on your couch, find your favorite bag of Doritos, and let's do it. Have a good one, everyone.